Before sunrise, an algorithm schedules the analyst's morning. Manhattan wakes beneath a sunrise that looks completely ordinary from a distance. Her coffee arrives before she touches a switch or checks the time. The last ordinary Monday began before anyone noticed. Driverless trains arrive together as thousands of commuters cross the silent concourse. Inside one carriage, nobody looks toward the empty operator's cabin anymore today. A route display adjusts itself before a delayed passenger reaches the platform. Midtown workers flow beneath the Empire State Building, unaware routine is ending. Employees enter headquarters carrying coffee, badges, and the expectation of normal Monday. One badge unlocks an office working without her. Across entire departments, artificial intelligence clears task queues before employees reach desks. The analyst watches completed reports appear where yesterday's work should have begun. Her cursor remains still while the system submits recommendations under her name. Delivery drones cross Brooklyn Bridge, carrying packages toward depots with no crews. Warehouse robots lift, scan, and stack parcels, while former workstations collect dust. A gripper replaces hands once protected by gloves. Behind factory glass, an engineer demonstrates one movement to a robotic arm. The machine copies her gesture, then repeats it with speed and precision. She removes her hand. The arm continues learning from every completed cycle. Executives applaud record productivity, while empty employee seats surround the boardroom table. A rising profit graph reflects across executives' faces as they toast automation. One green arrow reflects across executives' smiling faces. Workers lower their voices as restructuring rumors spread between crowded cafeteria tables. One employee shows a termination rumor on her phone. Nobody finishes lunch. A notification disappears from one worker's screen, confirming the rumor without explanation. CEO advances to a slide labeled Full Automation, while directors remain silent. The CEO confirms mass automation. Employees realize the decision had already been finalized months earlier. An employee grips the boardroom table as the CEO's announcement continues overhead. Dismissed workers step into Times Square, where advertisements continue selling perfect futures. Behind them, security closes the lobby, while automated systems continue processing business. Across New York, public screens announce autonomous layoffs before the morning commute has even ended. A yellow autonomous taxi passes the workers. Nobody inside notices their boxes. After dark, office towers keep glowing, completing work for employees who vanished. Autonomous trucks receive routes, while delivery drones rise simultaneously from warehouse roofs. Convoys leave Queens beneath cargo aircraft, without one dispatcher directing their movement. The economy kept producing after every employee left. A scanner approves each departing vehicle, while the dispatch booth remains dark. Factories reproduce identical products through the night, without shifts, breaks, or supervisors. Robotic arms pass components between themselves, correcting mistakes before anything stops moving. An unused factory clock records a shift. Nobody works inside it anymore. Dark Midtown towers process contracts, investments, and payments long after staff disappear. Inside empty offices, software negotiates deals across screens surrounding abandoned swivel chairs. One chair turns slowly beneath an active monitor. Automated clinics diagnose routine illnesses, while remote doctors handle only uncertain cases. A patient enters a scanner alone and receives treatment instructions within seconds. The dispenser releases exact medication before any nurse enters the sterile room. Sparse commuters cross Grand Central, while synchronized trains arrive without station controllers. The network briefly holds 3 trains, preventing congestion before passengers notice anything. A platform countdown changes itself as every connected signal turns green instantly. Rows of crops move beneath autonomous harvesters, feeding neighborhoods without farm shifts. A family watches harvesters fill crates that once required dozens of workers. A ripe tomato enters a sorted crate without hands ever touching it. The last supervisors gather beside robots that continue sorting packages around them. Supervisors receive termination notices while robot fleets continue sorting packages behind them without slowing down. One supervisor's access badge turns red while the conveyor continues beside him. Across Lower Manhattan, empty office floors glow like businesses are still staffed. Elevator doors open repeatedly onto floors where no employees remain anywhere. Family photograph sits beside a monitor, completing its owner's job. Applicants sit in numbered booths, while interview algorithms reject them silently. One applicant receives rejection before finishing her carefully rehearsed final answer. Her suitability score vanishes, leaving no person available to question directly. Government screens show profits rising, while consumer wages collapse beneath them. Officials watch both lines separate, unable to restore customers through automation. Queens loading docks operate past midnight without voices, breaks, or overtime. A maintenance robot switches off the lights and locks the office. Factories fill warehouses with products that customers can no longer buy. Barges carry unsold appliances beneath Brooklyn Bridge toward overflowing storage terminals. Money no longer determined who deserved to survive. One television receives another inventory label beside thousands exactly like it. Families divide savings across food, rent, and medicine. A mother removes fruit from her basket after checking her balance. 3 shrinking numbers glow beside unpaid bills across the family table. Unemployed crowds gather beneath Times Square screens, displaying record corporate profits. People raise empty wallets and demand an answer from government officials. One handwritten sign asks why abundance still requires a salary today. Government officials announce universal living credits from a crowded public chamber. Universal living credits appear overnight inside millions of civic accounts across boroughs of New York. A stunned father refreshes his balance, then quietly shows his family. Citizens activate new civic accounts at neighborhood kiosks. A woman scans her identity and watches essential access turn green. One screen replaces salary history with a simple guaranteed monthly balance. Markets across New York unlock shelves after the midnight policy change. Automated markets unlock essential goods, and cautious families carry full baskets home without payment, silently. A checkout gate opens without requesting money, cards, or employment status. Transit, healthcare, and basic housing become guaranteed services across every borough. A worker enters the subway, using identity for the first time. 3 green icons confirm transportation, medical care, and housing access together. An automation levy redirects machine productivity into the Universal Civic Fund. Officials replace payroll tax projections with revenue from autonomous companies instead. A factory transaction automatically sends one portion toward every resident's account. Money survives for scarce space, originals, and luxury. Collectors bid for waterfront apartments and handmade objects with limited supply. A buyer examines an imperfect watch before approving a large payment. Times Square screens announce universal living access across New York simultaneously. For the first time, losing a job no longer meant losing the right to live. Families test their civic balances at small neighborhood markets without fear. City Hall displays the automation dividend while crowds photograph the total. Former workers wake at 7, then remember nobody expects them anywhere. Morning reaches Manhattan without traffic, thickening into the familiar rush hour. Empty offices triggered humanity's deeper identity crisis. One alarm remains disabled. Beside a calendar emptied of every appointment, the former supervisor returns alone to the warehouse that defined him. His badge flashes red while machines continue moving beyond the doors. He presses both hands against glass, watching robots perform his routine. Displaced professionals enter a converted Brooklyn Hall, carrying resumes nobody needs. Support circles fill with doctors, managers, programmers, and former financial analysts. One banker folds his business card before finally saying his name. The engineer watches artificial intelligence redesign the system she originally created. Code rewrites itself across her screen before she understands yesterday's version. Her unopened notebook rests beside a machine, already testing better solutions. Graduates receive qualifications for careers that disappeared before their final examinations. A student deletes her chosen profession from a mandatory graduation profile. One diploma rests beneath a screen, listing occupations no longer hiring. Central Park fills with adults during hours reserved for office work. Former strangers occupy benches together, uncertain whether leisure should feel deserved. Polished office shoes sit beside a picnic blanket on Tuesday morning. The analyst rebuilds office routines at home. She creates a spreadsheet, schedules meetings, and assigns herself imaginary deadlines. Her finished report reaches an empty inbox that will never answer. The supervisor finds a broken chair inside a neighborhood repair workshop. The supervisor fits the final joint, lifts the chair, and smiles at waiting neighbors again. Sawdust covers his hands as someone asks him to repair another. Children ask their teacher what machines can calculate, but never desire. One child asks a classroom robot what it personally wants tomorrow. The robot lists goals, then waits beneath the child's disappointed stare. Volunteers gather around public boards covered with urgent, unresolved neighborhood problems. Residents pin urgent projects to a wall, then form voluntary teams around each shared problem. A former banker removes his job title before publishing his profile. Strangers introduce themselves through interests and questions, never mentioning former professions. Neighbors carry shared tools into an office abandoned by its owner. Brooklyn residents remove security signs and open the empty floor publicly. People stopped waiting, then rebuilt life together. Neighbors tear down abandoned cubicles, carrying shared tools into the office they will reclaim together. Residents convert rows of gray cubicles into bright studios and classrooms. A family creates one partition, while musicians build shelves beside them. An executive nameplate becomes a label for shared brushes and tools. Rooftop farms spread across Brooklyn, beside the still recognizable Manhattan skyline. People build raised gardens and communal furniture from reclaimed office materials. One teenager drives a screw-through wood taken from a desk. Community kitchens replace private cafeterias, freely serving whoever arrives before dinner. Neighbors chop vegetables, pass steaming dishes, and fill the community kitchen with conversation and laughter. A child passes fresh bread to someone she had never met. Repair tables occupy a former Brooklyn retail street between shuttered stores. Residents repair lamps, shoes, and appliances where new products once stood. One cracked lamp flickers back to life beneath its owner's hands. Residents publish public boards listing voluntary needs. Neighbors pin requests for tutors, repairs, local gardens, and medical companions. A stranger removes one request, writes her name, and begins immediately. Citizen scientists investigate neighborhood air, water, noise, and urgent soil problems. Volunteers carry East River samples into a laboratory reserved for corporations. A microscope reveals living algae inside water previously dismissed as polluted. Researchers leave an East River laboratory carrying equipment toward restoration boats. Divers guide restoration robots over damaged coral, while bright schools of fish return behind them. A living coral polyp opens beside the machine that positioned it. Families gather together beneath telescopes after sunset. Parents and children share observatory platforms, once restricted to professional researchers. One child finds Saturn's rings, then silently pulls her grandfather closer. Belonging begins replacing employment as the primary measure of social value. Brooklyn residents convert a parking structure into gardens before everyone understands what it has become. A volunteer badge replaces the access card on one resident's jacket. Volunteers reopen a library as a workshop, classroom, and project center. Perfect factory objects flood markets until every product looks completely interchangeable. A Times Square store displays identical watches beneath signs promising perfection. Human craft returned when perfection lost meaning. One customer compares flawless objects, then finally leaves without choosing anything. Inside a workshop, a watchmaker files one brass wheel by hand. The watchmaker shapes one imperfect mechanism by hand, leaving tiny marks no machine would create. His fingerprint remains visible beside a scratch inside the finished case. Buyers pay for fingerprints, provenance, and imperfection. Visitors turn handmade objects over, searching for evidence of their makers. One buyer scans a signature and watches the object's history unfold. A Brooklyn workshop opens its doors to students carrying borrowed tools. The former supervisor guides a teenager's hands, teaching careful movements instead of chasing production speed. The teenager corrects a crooked joint instead of requesting automated replacement. An engineer uses intelligent machines while keeping every decision visibly human. She rejects one optimized design and sketches a less efficient alternative. The machine pauses while her hand changes the selected production path. Human chefs improvise dinner from vegetables delivered without a standardized recipe. One cook tastes the sauce, laughs, and changes everything at once. A handwritten correction covers the recipe while diners watch from tables. Human musicians perform beneath Times Square screens, as one moment reveals an irreversible public change. Musicians continue without generated accompaniment as a crowd gathers around them. One missed note makes the guitarist smile, while listeners move closer. Students learn patience by binding physical books inside a quiet classroom. A teacher guides thread through paper, while impatient hands become steady. An uneven stitch remains. The student chooses not to hide it. Farmers preserve seasonal crops for taste, memory, and future neighborhood meals. Families compare jars, remembering shared summers through subtle differences in flavor. One handwritten date connects fruit to the person who grew it. Work returned as expression instead of obligation. The maker signs one imperfect object, turning human origin into its greatest source of value. A museum presents employee badges beside tools used purely by choice. Visitors touch replica badges, surprised that identity once depended upon employment. Children enter school without career rankings, salary forecasts, or employer tracks. They cross a greener Manhattan neighborhood, carrying tools instead of uniforms. Free children inherited questions instead of careers. One timetable lists unanswered questions where old professional subjects once appeared. Students choose real problems they genuinely want to understand and solve. One team selects neighborhood flooding, while another investigates disappearing urban birds. A child pins her name beneath coral restoration instead of accounting. A student studies coral ecosystems inside a laboratory open to neighborhoods. She adjusts a microscope while restoration data moves across surrounding screens. A living reef model brightens when her proposed water conditions succeed. The child boards a research vessel waiting on the East River. A child boards the restoration vessel, carrying research that could help revive an entire coastline. She secures her equipment and watches Manhattan recede behind the vessel. The former analyst preserves memories of employment inside a public archive. She scans resignation letters, calendars, and handwritten notes from displaced workers. Her access badge enters a case labeled Everyday Life Before Automation. The former supervisor opens his workshop to anyone willing to learn. The former supervisor teaches strangers freely, measuring success through confidence rather than production totals today. The repaired chair now carries the names of everyone he taught. The engineer asks human questions while artificial intelligence performs impossible calculations. She circles one ethical question the machine's perfect answer cannot resolve. Green terraces climb Manhattan's towers, transforming the skyline without erasing its history completely by sunset. Equations fill every screen, while her question remains at their center. Gardens and community rooms replace abandoned former business districts across Manhattan. One abandoned block becomes a living neighborhood. Families reclaim weekday afternoons once consumed by commuting and scheduled obligations. 3 generations share lunch together on an ordinary quiet Monday afternoon. An alarm clock sits beneath photographs of gardens, friends, and voyages. A child watches New York lights from a public rooftop observatory. A child colors tomorrow's New York green on an interactive map. Her finger pauses above one district, waiting for an unanswered idea. Autonomous ferries cross a greener harbor between restored shorelines and wetlands. New York enters Monday without alarms, revealing freedom inside the city's new daily rhythm forever. Children ask their elders what the morning commute once felt like.